Before we get to your scheduled video, please remember that likes and comments tell YouTube to promote our work to other people, and subscribing to the channel tells you when something new drops. You can also head to the link tree in the description to peruse my books, join us on Discord, or support us on Patreon. You can get episodes of Journey of Wrestling and Violent Profiles early, as well as a load of other treats. Even just $1 a month earns you a name drop for being cool. Thanks for listening, and enjoy the show. Greetings and salutations, fellow time travelers. It is I, Eric J. Chucci, joined as always by the boy.
Hey!
This is the Two Nerds Podcast, and today we're talking about the 1991 Royal Rumble. It's only been like a million years since our last Royal Rumble podcast.
We're continuing our series from last week of focusing on early 90s content.
I mean, that's basically this channel.
Ain't it just? So we're talking Royal Rumbles before they figured out what those were.
They had a good one last time, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, the 90 Rumble was okay. I remember generally being pretty positive about it. Like, they had gotten the vibe. Spoilers for a little later in this podcast, buddy. They forgot the vibe.
You know, 5 people I think really they could have had in this Rumble instead of nobodies like Hercules that would have really made it better because they're so cool.
Well, list them out, brother. I want to hear them.
I would love to. First of all, there's Rob.
Oh, of course.
A guy from Ohio.
That would have really zazzed the place up.
Yeah, he really pops the crowd. Harmony.
Oh, yeah.
Passion Killer 711.
Oh, strong.
And Destrucity KTL, who was kind of there, but
spiritually,
not in the Rumble.
The spirit of he was on the Warriors' back.
Those people are cool because they give me $1. I'll be frank with you. Many of them give me more, but $1 is all it takes for you to become cool and me to say your name out loud every time we do this shit.
Yep. So the Royal Rumble
also gets you episodes of Journey of Wrestling a week early. This is a wrestling podcast. You probably care about Journey of Wrestling. It's the show where we book wrestling.
And it is the most popular thing on the channel. Well, second most. Violent Profiles is most.
Depends on the week. But, yes, the Royal Rumble, we had an off week because I didn't get to Loki in time, and I want to watch it with someone else. So I couldn't binge it when I realized it was ending. Well, I could have, but that would have been rude. But we will get to Loki Season 2 at some point. But there's some stuff that needs to happen in between then and now. And we needed a podcast this week. So
we spent 3 hours watching a very old wrestling pay-per-view that was very, very mediocre.
I might have rated it higher than the collision that happened at the same time, from what I gathered. Which you could talk about in our Discord. Link in the link tree in the description.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can tell me how wrong I am.
Several people who are cool are in the Discord. Mm-hmm. You can hang out with them.
So, there was a dark match. It wasn't on the show. Jerry Saggs defeated Sam Houston. I don't know who that is.
Good for them.
Yeah, no. Fuck Jerry Saggs. That's not like he did something politically wrong that I disagree with thing. I just don't like him.
Yeah, this is a level of like consistent dislike and commitment to disliking that you usually reserve for people who are shitbags, not just annoying.
Yeah, no, we're just getting into I don't care for these wrestlers. I'm so tired of them getting pushed. It's backstage bullshit. I don't like the Nasty Boys. There we go. I like guys like the Booty Man. I don't know.
And he was only pushed because he was friends with Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, they got pushed and didn't deserve it. He got pushed and deserved it, even though he earned it the wrong way. What we actually opened with was the Orient Express, this team being Kato, who is not in any way Asian, and Tanaka, with Mr. Fuji, of course, against the Rockers, Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty. We're not quite to the Al Snow era yet. In a nearly 20-minute fucking tag team match.
They gave this so much time that it did not need. But, I mean, normally when I say something like this match is a little long, I try and think, what other match on the card could have used more time? Maybe 1.
2, I'm seeing toward the end of the show. Take 6 of those minutes off, give them to those matches. Sounds good.
Shawn Michaels was better than everybody else in this ring by a lot already.
There were a couple of cool spots, but it just wasn't hitting. The referee sucked. There was no communication. And I mean, it was the early 90s, so like yeah, the referee sucked and there was no communication.
That was just the case. And of the classic Royal Rumbles we've watched so far, this one felt the most dusty and dry. This one felt the most old, even though the others are objectively older. That's how time works.
I will say, however, the rest of the card was probably better than the rest of the card of the other Royal Rumbles.
Oh yeah. This was much more of this was much more of a wrestling show as opposed to a weird media event. There weren't any very long 14-minute segments where a guy was trying to lift something on this show.
Well, there was Sensational Sherry offering blowjobs to the Ultimate Warrior if he gave Macho Man a title shot.
And look, that was bad. Don't get me wrong. Sensational Sherry is bad. She's not good. She's a terrible promo. I don't know why we keep giving her microphones. She has done 2 promos at 2 Rumbles I've watched so far. They have both been hilariously god-awful. But it was at least not that long. It felt long.
And it ended in Warrior sniffing the kiss she gave him and then screaming no in her face like a meme. Powerful.
And then leaving.
Yeah.
And that was the end of it. That's good.
The Rockers went over in their match. There's not much to say. I think the guy who played Kato, let me see if I can hover over the Wikipedia page I have open. No, I can't. I gotta click, kids. There should be no kids watching this video.
Fuck.
Yeah, I'll tell your parents on you. Thomas Boric, a Croatian professional wrestler and former football player, that is to say the soccer. He had a good build. I think he might have been something decent if he'd been given an okay gimmick. There's so many guys in this era that it's like...
Why weren't you more over?
Yeah. And I mean, that's the theme of this pay-per-view, because we didn't have a big lifting segment, but we did have a lot of patriotic segments, because we were in the middle of
the Gulf War.
Yeah. One of them. Man, they had like man on the street promos with randos talking about soldiers they liked and missed and hoped well for.
Yeah, we were peak Desert Storm at this point, I think.
And I mean, like, you know, I was a child at the time, and I'm not a great historian, so I'm going to remain absolutely neutral and say, yeah, soldiers put their lives on the line. That is a fact, and I understand why people want to
commemorate and celebrate.
Yes. But like, coming at this from a more aware time,
coming at this from now,
yeah. Just where communication is more prominent is all I meant. The internet is a bigger thing. It feels so, like, it feels older than the other pay-per-views we've watched, in a way.
That might be part of what's giving me the vibe of this being the oldest one we've watched, like, spiritually, if not factually. This felt very...
Nowadays in a wrestling ring, you can't, despite what Vince McMahon thinks, just get over saying, "Yay, America," and you can't just get someone over as a heel by going, "They're from another country." But it works here.
Because this was before the death of kayfabe, so, like that, it works. It just works.
And it's baffling. It's like seeing the worst possible gimmick you could imagine on TV and everyone cheering for it, and you sitting on the couch going, "I don't."
You said something like right at the beginning of the show when Vince was doing his I'm Vince's announcer voice. I'm not going to do an impression of Vince's announcer voice. I like my larynx and I like you people. He was doing his announcer voice and was like introing, I think, every single person in the Rumble.
You already bought the pay-per-view, but here's a rundown of everyone, like advertising or something.
Yeah, well, you said that, and the way he was doing it, you said, "Man, this is the thing all the wrestling parodies are based on." And
yeah, that era.
The
music, the visuals, Vince yelling.
I think that's maybe why the other ones felt fresher, because they were so old that they were like, wrestling was just different.
Yeah.
Whereas wrestling doesn't. This is kind of the product I recognize from my childhood.
We're heading toward a peak.
But, like, the kind that was lame. before I got into it.
We are heading toward a peak, or we have just hit it and we're coming down, where wrestling was so hot. But we're hitting what people in the know call the decline. And it doesn't shoot back up until the Attitude Era.
Look, this feels lame.
Yeah. Now, that's not to say the talent wasn't deserving or the angles were bad.
Like I said, there's a bunch of shit in here that, like, why didn't this get over more? Why wasn't this more over? Why didn't... it's because basically all of the possible overness was sucked into the bodies of Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior and Macho Man to a lesser extent, and no one else mattered. Even a little bit.
So our next match was the Big Boss Man defeating the Barbarian. Spoiler alert. 14 minutes for this one. I thought it was pretty good, actually. It started a little slow, but the more they got into it, the more Barbarian was pulling off some really cool shit.
And Ray Traylor's an athletic guy. Good
Especially,
shape,
yeah,
good
for his
shape
size.
this year.
Mm-hmm. This was before he slimmed down for the Attitude Era return. Took a couple nasty bumps, did a couple of cool moves. And I got into the psychology of the match. I wasn't there for the storyline because we're just watching the pay-per-views, not the build. But
there is a limit.
They put on a good contest, and I had a good time through probably about 10 minutes of it. Anything specific you have to say about this one, my friend?
I will say that the Barbarian is one of those people who, like, you look at him and you see what he looks like. And you think to yourself, boy, you could have been something.
They didn't do bad when he started teaming with Meng, with Haku, in WWF shortly after this, and then basically through all of WCW that they were there for. They were pretty dominant, but, we push personalities, and we still do this today. Roman Reigns has been champion as of this point for like 73 years.
Roman Reigns has been champion since before the beginning of time. He always was and always will be. He will see the end of time as the tribal chief. At this point, it is inevitable.
Speaking of champions, I do want to mention the Ultimate Warrior is the champion going into this pay-per-view, and his belt, the strap, is lavender, and I love it.
It was such a weird call. Such a call that we would not have made.
No, but it works.
Like
the gold and the lavender looks really good. The smaller belt.
Even, I say 4 years later, there's just not a single chance in hell.
No.
The only person who's going to have a lavender belt is Goldust, and he's not getting the world title.
But very excited about that lavender belt. Very excited about it being on the line in the middle of the card.
Yeah, this is the title. Look, on the Royal Rumble pay-per-view, the Royal Rumble should go on last. That is actual, it's factual, it's right and just. They did the right thing by putting it on last. But the world title match should probably not be in the middle of the card. First, valid. You set up who's going to be the champion for the winner of the Royal Rumble. In the brighter universe where they figured that out.
2 more years.
God, 2 more years after this? Jiminy criminy,
and that
why?
is to say 93.
All right. I'll get to that when we get to the Rumble. Right before the Rumble, secondarily fine, kind of steps on the Rumble's toes a little. I don't know that I do that.
It's the Rumble, though. And it starts slow anyway.
Yeah, so that's fine, because the beginning of the Rumble is your reset.
You don't lose a lot.
The fucking weird... The smack dab ass in the middle of the card... Bad placement.
I do want to shout out General Adnan for being genuinely just pleased to be there. This was... So, like a lot of these shows we watch, I might have seen or I might have been watching wrestling at the time, but I was 6, 5, it was just in January.
I was a toddler, literally, at this point.
While I might have seen the build to these in some part or another, I didn't know wrestling. I didn't know how to tell you a guy was a good promo or a good worker. I was 6. Watching it now, man, General Adnan's just a big smile.
He's
big
just
mustache,
having a good time.
just shouting his love for his god, and there's old man Linkara.
Which was the meanest shit you've said about Linkara.
I don't know that it's mean. I just think it's comparative. I've never noticed it before, but
Sergeant Slaughter and Linkara do oddly look like each other.
and kind of sound similar too. You out there in TV land, if you know Linkara, the famous comic book reviewer from that one website, no longer. He's just on YouTube now. He's got a character who's a wrestler even called Bad Button. I think find some Bad Button clips, find some Sergeant Slaughter clips, and try to find the space in between. It's not as big as you think.
It's like a Fidel Castro, Justin Trudeau situation.
I ain't Goku. But we had a WWF Championship match. I don't know, man. What did you think about this one?
I think this was an Ultimate Warrior match. It was actually the longest Ultimate Warrior match I've ever seen.
They really put some stuff in there because Warrior refused to give Macho Man that title shot after the match if he won. With Sherry and Macho Man interfering toward the beginning, middle, and that taking a long time. Slaughter specifically stopped the 10 count like twice before going out of the ring to just get Ultimate Warrior and bring him back.
He was really milking it. He really was. So I understand at this point, in kayfabe, in the universe of the WWF, Ultimate Warrior is essentially a Super Saiyan. He cannot be defeated by mortal men. So if you're going to have him lose a match to a bad guy, even a bad guy who was, not too long before this, a good guy, like Sergeant Slaughter, he must be set upon by the entire world. So you gotta really take your time to sell that he is being cheated, heavily cheated out of the win, because he is a Super Saiyan, so you have to make it believable. I understand that. But Jim Hellwig is a man of many talents. Skronking, yelling, nonsensical shit that somehow manages to be a great promo anyway.
This was one of his lower bars.
Still good.
Yeah, it was still good.
But
unlike some people on this card, brother.
He has like a late 2010s Brock Lesnar energy in that every picosecond beyond 5 minutes that his match goes, the worse the match gets. It is just a downward slide once you get past the Warrior vibe.
It peaks and then hits a valley because he gasses himself out running to the ring, and not like too bad because he's not that old at this point, but he does run down to the ring and shake the rope like a madman. Yeah. So he's only got so much juice to go, and then it's... And he popped back up. He hit those 3 or 4 dingo bombers right in a row, and that was good shit. But then it, petered out toward the middle. It was okay.
And, I didn't hate this match. But this match... I think maybe it's not the match's fault. Because this match sucked all the energy out of me. But that's because I know how terrible the result goes.
What are you talking about? This is a big win for Sergeant Slaughter. He clearly did good things after this. Didn't just hold the belt for 2 months.
Yeah, it's not... Why would you bother having Ultimate Warrior drop it if that's all you're gonna do? Because
you can't play face versus face. That's not allowed.
You can in this instance. They've done it before. Yeah. In this instance with these particular people.
You know what? It didn't feel like a title match.
No, it felt like a random match.
And it didn't feel like a world title match especially. But much like having to deal with that 30 minutes of sensational Sherry trying to seduce the Ultimate Warrior to be rewarded with no, and him walking away, the smile on General Adnan's face makes it all worth it to me. Just a beaming, like no one had broke kayfabe for him, and he was like, my boy won.
Yeah.
I'm so glad for him.
No one had smartened General Adnan up, and he was just
wow, he did it. Oh, how good.
We really should try and find a way to bottle whatever it is Sherry was doing, because I feel like that time dilation effect could be very useful.
Yeah, Jesus. So I'd like to move on to my match of the night, if you don't mind.
Absolutely, sir.
Okay. That would be the Mountie, Jacques Rougeau, versus Coco Beware. Coco Beware. For nothing.
Because nothing. Mountie wins.
Yeah, Mountie barely wins. Mountie, I was e-fetting once, and I remember being upset about this. It stuck out in my mind. I was in a match against another guy. We did like long form write-ups at the time, and it was basically my dude came out, hit one move, got bodied for the rest of the match, hit one more move and won. And I was like, look, I know I got the pinfall and everything, but this does not make me look good. Now, I was being a dick at the time, but like it was not great. You could have maybe done that a little bit better. That's basically what happened to the Mountie. He came out and hit one move. Coco Beware stunted on this man. There was a point where he hung in the middle of the air, standing on his arm for a few seconds with his flotation powers. And then he like reversed his roll move and won. He stole it.
Yeah. Absolutely. But like, the best wrestled match of the night.
Oh my god, yeah.
Not just my favorite match of the night. I will stake the best wrestled match of this night.
It was really good. Coco Beware was putting on just the smoothest performance. Throwing in little taunts here and there between his moves, just getting inside the skull of his opponent. And Jacques Rougeau's no slouch. He's not the most charismatic person in the world, but he's definitely got some talent in the ring, and he was a good showcase here. However, the real highlight goes to Jimmy Hart and Frankie continuously arguing at ringside. For you younger viewers, Frankie is a parrot.
And Jimmy Hart was fully committed to arguing with this parrot. And it's important for you to know, the parrot was arguing back.
Yeah. And every now and then, when Coco would hit a big move, he would start like tweeting and screeching and stuff.
He would celebratorily screech when Coco was doing well.
Frankie was, he was really working as a manager. It was a beautiful thing. Really brought me back in, brought my buy-in back for this
Coco
event.
is another guy who I went, while watching this, why weren't you anything? Why were you nothing?
He was big at the time, but like they never did anything with him.
And I also commented on and you mentioned that he's never in any of the games. We never see retrospectives on him, and he's clearly a talented guy who was big at the time. And then you found out why.
Oh yeah. Well, you guys know the class action lawsuit that was settled not too long ago. Guys like Demolition, Coco Beware, and a whole bunch of other people basically tried to sue the WWE. It didn't go well for them. Went fine with the WWE, but they're kind of persona non grata. That's why the New Day broke the old tag title record, was because they wanted to get Demolitions out of there, out of spite. And also because the New Day are good.
Worked out great for my boy Austin, so whatever.
That's why the New Day broke the tag title records, because they're good. But someone was going to break it for that reason, because it was happening around that time. And that's too bad. He deserves his flowers, does Coco Beware. Maybe track down some of his matches and watch them. I think you'll be delighted. I love Jimmy Hart also. I don't know if I say that enough. He's another one of those guys, like Beefcake, who gets looked past because he was just Hulk Hogan's friend. But like,
to be clear, that is why he was allowed to do stuff. He is also very talented, but that is not why.
He also has just he just screams into a megaphone that he doesn't need, dresses in loud airbrushed suits, and as I understand it, is just the most pleasant fellow outside the ring.
Like, he's a guy who understands the assignment. His job is to get over, typically as a heel, his managed wrestler. So he does that by being the most comedically, farcically annoying piece of shit possible.
Yeah, everything Bobby Heenan does by being better than you and smug about it, Jimmy Hart does just by being on fire.
He does by being a cartoon character who is a shit. And, like, he has no ego. He will do the goofiest shit. He will be humiliated in the dumbest possible ways because it's all about the business. And he understands the assignment. And I love that.
Yeah. So we had one more match before the Royal Rumble. And I would like to take a moment to pause and talk about promos. You know what? Let's go ahead and do that now. They did a bunch of interviews, the Royal Rumble segments they've been doing, where they talk to everybody who's in the Rumble. I don't think there were any really big standouts this year.
No, I don't think so.
I mean, Jake's was pretty good. I think Rick Martel's was pretty solid.
Rick Martel's was okay. It's bolstered by his performance in the Rumble.
Well, and I liked it at the time, and I would say perhaps it's bolstered by his accent, giving it more flair than maybe if it were delivered vanilla. But I wanted to say, Ted DiBiase, in fact, is set up for this match. He talks about how he pays Virgil, so Virgil does what he says. And says, mean Ted DiBiase stuff. That was another very important promo. We also had the fallout of Macho Man and Ultimate Warrior. Ultimate Warrior went tearing off to go find Macho Man for revenge afterward.
Macho did a quick promo about how, I told you should have said yes to me. You didn't give me what I wanted, so I cheated you. Yeah, I did it. Cry about it. L plus ratio.
And then this door starts rattling like that first big gate in Bloodborne, and Macho Man leaves. He runs away. But we bring into the second to last match. And these are the two matches that I think could have used a couple more minutes. That is to say, the previous one with Coco Beware, because I would have liked to see those guys work a little more. And this one, which is Dusty and Dustin Rhodes in their final match in the WWE for this contract. Dusty retired shortly after this. Dustin came back, I think, later, maybe?
Possibly.
Who knows? Against Virgil and Ted DiBiase. Let's hear your thoughts, man.
Well, my first thought is that this being their final match of this contract really explains some shit.
I think more that the run explains why this was the final match of their contract.
It really was. Vince McMahon, I can't imagine hating anyone as long as Vince McMahon has clearly hated Dusty Rhodes. Like, I can't fathom that level of pettiness. Anyway, the match would have been a lot better for a little more time. Ted DiBiase is a talent. He just is. He's a good wrestler.
For as green as Dustin was, he was working pretty well.
Yeah, he's like 22 here, we figured out.
And Dusty was barely in the match.
Yeah, he did like two things.
I mean, they did the whole, beat up on the newer babyface so that the hot tag babyface gets all the heat, except that then they just won.
Yeah. Ted DiBiase just beats Dusty Rhodes pretty clean. Doesn't cheat or anything. He just wins. After beating up Virgil, after taking a move from Virgil, as there's like confusion and I think it was Dusty dodges out of the way and Virgil hits his boss, Ted DiBiase then beats the shit out of him, tosses out of the ring, and then fights the Rhodes 2-on-1 and wins anyway, clean.
Like immediately after that.
Yeah. Fucking terrible booking. Just bad. But the Rhodes lose, they leave, that's fine. Then we have the after match, because the match is nothing. It's nothing to write home about.
It's 10 minutes of showcasing Dustin and Virgil, basically.
Yeah. After the match, Ted DiBiase proceeds to be a humongous piece of shit at Virgil more. And even earlier in the match, Virgil is looking at Ted DiBiase while he's talking about, Virgil's my bitch boy. He'll do whatever I say because I give him money. With, like, pure, undiluted hate in his eyes. Like, this is the best acting. Virgil looks like he wants to kill that guy during the promo. And then Ted DiBiase is being a shit to him after the match. And Virgil continues to look at him like he's going, I'm going to kill you. And eventually he does actually hit him with the $1 million belt and turn on him. And
the crowd's hot for it.
The crowd's hot for it. And I just thought to myself, why wasn't this more important? It was a great moment. It was incredibly well acted. The visual of Virgil proudly walking away down up the alleyway, up the little gangway they have to the back, with fans, like all of the fans, reaching out, desperately trying to touch Virgil of all people. This proud moment of gaining his own self-respect back. Why wasn't this allowed to matter?
I don't remember what happened after this historically. There is nothing on the Wikipedia entry for it. I'm not doing more research right now. Please let us know in the comments if anything good came of this. I'm sure they had a match at least. But they were back together by the time they crossed the pond.
And I'm upset about it. This should have been, and maybe like Virgil, they tried to make something out of it and Virgil just couldn't get over it.
Sure, he's not the best promo.
He's not. I'm not a fucking pro wrestler. I can't do any of this shit. But this should have made a star.
Yeah.
This moment was perfect. I'm very frustrated that it didn't come to anything.
Yeah. If you guys know better, let us know. But that'll bring us to the big shebang. Man, it went an hour and 5 minutes, but
there is fucking nothing to say.
I don't have a lot to say about this. We said at the the beginning of the show, and have kind of sprinkling it in the whole time. Previously, the first 2 episodes of this we were like, oh, okay, they don't really understand a Royal Rumble. Last year,
they felt like they had the vibe.
They had the vibe. And they did a little bit better building it and talking about it, and the fans got it better. They were doing the 10 counts.
The fans know what's going on at this point. But
there were a lot of really big fumbles in here. I almost want to say style over substance, but I don't even know if that's I don't even think they hit style. Style over substance, and you didn't hit the style. Your plan was bad, and it failed.
This whole card was tap water. This is that weird metally aftertaste that you sometimes get with tap water.
Yeah.
It's just a bad note to end the show on.
And it lasted for an hour and 5 minutes. It wasn't interminable to watch.
No, it was fine, but
largely because Greg Valentine came in at number 3, and I got to have that for a long time.
Mm-hmm. He was in there for a long time.
He was
40 minutes.
Yeah, something like that. And then Rick Martel at number 6, and that became my story of the match. Was enjoying Rick Martel being in there for as long as humanly possible. But there wasn't really a lot more to get excited about. For as much as
I think this is a good time to bring this up. I think at this point in the WWF at the time...
you can't say that. Roddy Piper couldn't say it. It's just WW.
I'm saying what I like. But in its universe, right? We have reached... Last year was the apex of the Royal Rumble as a spectacle match. They figured out the vibe. They figured out what a Rumble is... And then it was the last, this is a new, fresh thing. This is the first by-the-numbers Royal Rumble. And the problem with that is that it's not fucking for anything.
Yeah, and there wasn't really anybody to root for the whole time. I made stuff up because of guys I was really into, but you don't have you had Bret Hart coming in number 1, but he wasn't atomic yet.
There was no story.
There was no one the fans really gave a shit about until Jake Roberts showed up, and then Tito Santana a little bit later, but...
And to be clear, neither of them did anything important or were showcased in any way.
Not really, no.
There was no through line for the match. There was no... The fucking announcers... It was Gorilla and Piper, and they were insane the whole night.
They were really great. They brought a lot of fun to the show, but I feel like they weren't being communicated with.
And so they didn't have a story to tell. The wrestlers in the ring didn't have a story to tell. And there is no inherent built-in story because it's not a spectacle anymore. We've had enough of these that it's routine. And the match isn't fucking for anything. There's no reason for this match to happen.
With the way they kept talking about, Macho Man was like, I deserve a title shot. I've earned a title shot. Sergeant Slaughter said he'd give me a title shot if he wins. You give me a title shot if you win, Warrior. And the way a lot of other stuff was being talked about, even down to the way Hulk Hogan in his solo Royal Rumble promo was poorly donating his participation in the match to the troops. He fumbled that promo hard. Not Psycho Sid hard, but still pretty bad.
Well, yeah, he didn't forget he was on live TV, but it was just about that level.
But I kind of thought... Gene, there's a point during Hulk's promo where he's like, hold on, I'm getting some information here that Sergeant Slaughter tore up the American flag. I thought that was going to be that Sergeant Slaughter has said whoever wins this match gets a shot at his title. Or that management has said whoever wins this match gets a shot at Sergeant Slaughter's title. Because of the contentious way in which he won. And the big deal they made about that. But there's nothing.
There's a brighter, better universe where that happened.
Nothing. It doesn't happen. The commentary team didn't understand when Randy Savage didn't come out that Randy Savage was the one who didn't come out because he left.
Because he's running from the Warrior. Because no one told them that was the gimmick. Clearly, no one told them. So they didn't know. So they just kind of had to vamp about someone decided not to fucking come out. What do we do to paper over this stupid bullshit? But it's just... This is like the worst, most awkward teenage phase of the Royal Rumble. Where we've got the match formed, but we don't have the reason to keep doing it. Because it's not enough of a weird spectacle that you can be like, I won the Royal Rumble. That's, that's very iconic because, we've only had like 2. That gives me something to crow about for the next year. This is nothing. So we have a skeleton that doesn't have a body around it yet. And we have another year of this to go on this series, and next year's Rumble's going to be, unless it's actually really good, which is always the hope, a hard sit.
Storylines are the key. The Jake Roberts Martel thing was interesting, but they only like half paid attention to it.
And Martel absolutely bodied Roberts. Every time they met, Martel beat his ass and sent him running.
There was a little bit of a conflict between Earthquake and Tugboat, but it was like for a couple seconds.
And it petered out.
Yeah, it wasn't... Nothing really came to mean anything.
That's why you have... That is why, structurally, you have Battle Royals before a thing. Even something as small as a fucking trophy. Because there needs to be a reason for the match to exist, and that is a nice, easy, baked-in thing that everyone can be struggling for. So every time you talk about someone, you can be talking about why they might want X reward. Mm-hmm. Making it a world title shot for WrestleMania is just excellent. This is me absolutely giving the flowers to whoever came up with this. It's an excellent idea because it inherently sells WrestleMania while you've already bought the Rumble in a way that isn't going to piss people off. Because it's not just, hey, give us more money. It's, no, we're building a story here. Here's the next link. That's really good. Without that, this is just a really fucking long battle royal for no reason.
And there was a lot of hugging.
A lot of hugging.
A lot of 5 guys stacked up in a corner doing a cheerleader pyramid hugging.
Not a lot of cool spots. No. Not a lot of cool events.
Well, there was Hulk Hogan almost killed Crush.
That dude was 4 inches away from being a vegetable.
He got up, and I was like, he had big, he's okay energy. I think but like I said, the cool stuff was the narratives that came up. In fact, let's close out the show with that. Hulk Hogan wins LOL, and runs around holding signs and waving American flags while his music plays.
It's an early 90s WWF wrestling thing. Hulk Hogan's in it. He wins it.
What were your favorite parts of this match? What was a takeaway from this match that you were like, yeah, that was cool? I know one.
I liked seeing early young Undertaker.
Yeah.
With his ginger hair and his fucking guns out and shit. That's
Brother Love.
I could take or leave Brother Love.
Well, being managed by him.
Oh, yes.
It's that early in his career. Man,
Haku was cool as always.
Haku just ran around karate chopping people to death.
And it makes sense for him to do that.
There was one spot I remember you were pretty excited to see.
Oh, yeah. My favorite, I've been looking for, because I didn't know which Rumble, I knew it was an early Rumble, but I did not know which Rumble this happened in. I have been looking forward to this spot in every Rumble we've watched so far, because this Rumble was iconic in 2 ways. It set the record for longest person in the Rumble that was held for a long time. and it set the record for shortest in the Rumble, which was held for even longer. Bushwhacker Luke does his bushwhacker walk into the ring, rolls into the ring, is grabbed, is thrown out of the ring. While doing the bushwalker walk, I want you to know he didn't stop while another man was walking him across the ring. Flies over the ropes, gets up, and bushwalker walks his way out of the ring, and it's the funniest goddamn thing to happen in the match.
I, of course, just really enjoyed seeing a couple of guys I like work, including Haku, of course, and Greg Valentine, who...
You mark for Greg Valentine.
I do, and every time I see him, I mark more. He was the... who's that guy?
You called him the Eddie Kingston of his day.
Yeah, he just hits you really hard and doesn't give a shit. I don't think he was anywhere near as good a promo as Eddie Kingston, but, like, he just batters you. He earns his name, and he has beautiful blonde hair. And he's just clearly never cared about anything in his life. He comes out there in his little robe, and he just kills guys for an hour. And it's beautiful. I love how unhinged he was the whole match, too. He was just there to ruin everything else.
Yeah, he would make a point to go over and just fuck everyone else over. Like, if anyone was doing well, he was like, and then the hammer comes!
Yeah, there was a point where one dude was trying to get another out. Hammer comes over and tries to help him get that guy out, but it doesn't work, so he just gives up and attacks the dude who was trying to eliminate a guy.
Big green goblin energy.
Beautiful. Chaotic. I loved it. I actually, if they had pulled off the Randy Savage spot, that would have been brilliant.
Like, if they had actually called it, yeah that would have been good storytelling.
And I liked John Tenta, Earthquake, being there for a while, looking like a threat.
Being strong insofar as you're allowed to be strong when you're in the same ring as Hulk, but how do I go over, brother? Hogan.
He looked pretty good, and John Tenta was a really giving guy backstage, so I'm glad to see he got some. Are we looking forward to the next Royal Rumble?
I'm gonna be real with you, Chief. No.
You're looking forward to the one after that?
I'm looking forward to the one where the match has a point.
Yeah, okay. Well, sorry.